Yo, Renzo gang, how y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? Today, it's been a while since I did this type of video. I'm doing a real life, real talk video. But before I get started in the topic, I just want to say, hope everyone's had an amazing day today. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys with all the love and support. I thank y'all. Now, I ain't gonna lie, Renzo gang, this has been a really, really rough week. You know, a lot of it's been a lot going on. So this video right here, I'm gonna pretty much talk about, you know, controlling your anger and keeping your emotions in check. Because I'm not gonna lie, Renzo gang, I do fall short of this sometimes. I let my anger get the best of me sometimes. My emotions get the best of me sometimes. Because like honestly, I have like a million thoughts going on in my head sometimes, especially when I feel like I'm overworked and sometimes I feel like I work too hard and then my hard work just goes in vain, and then that does trigger me to get angry, and my emotions are all over the place. So I understand there's a lot to deal with on a lot of people have a lot on their plates. Someone's story is worse than mine, so that's why I try to think about what someone else is going through sometimes, and then I'm like, you know what, I need to check my anger at the door, control my emotions, because sometimes like when you're constantly angry a lot, you tend to bring a negative vibe, especially like if you're going anywhere and you're angry about something, and you can throw someone else's energy off just by being angry. That's why sometimes like when I know I have to be out, or if I'm at work, or if I have to be out just anywhere and I'm not in a good mood, personally, I would rather just want to be alone, left alone, do what I need to do and just get out of there and go home. Because personally, I don't want to be bringing my anger around anybody, because like I don't want nobody, taking their anger out on me and bringing me down, because they're angry about something, because that's is not fair. And especially us as men, we do have to control our emotions. We have to really seek out help, you know, because I understand, especially in this generation, like they like to try to throw it in our faces. Men, you know what I'm talking about, fellas. People like to try to throw it in our faces, and also they like to try to portray us as these angry, especially us black men. They try to portray us as these angry, Neanderthals and this, that, and the third. And that's not the case. Like we have reasons why you know the new term crash out. We have reasons why we act the way we act, because it could be work related stress, it could be financial stress, it could just be anything. That it is a reason why. It's got to be a reason why we have anger. Some people just, excuse me, y'all. It is kind of late. But anyway, some people are born with anger issues. Bipolar, whatever. But I'm not talking about no one's conditions. By all means, if you don't get offended, I'm not talking about no one's condition at all. But most likely, people we have reasons why we have tempers, why we have to control our emotions, while our emotions are all over the place. But like, it's reasons why. Sometimes, most of the time, we're never just acting out just for no reason. Like most of the time, like especially a person like myself, who's a good person at heart, who has a great heart, has a lot of patience. A lot of times we're provoked. A lot of times we are provoked, and sometimes we may not we may not want to control our emotions at that moment, because it's like sometimes I'm not gonna lie, it does feel good to be mad at someone or mad at the situation. And we don't want to like release that anger, but at the end of the day, you have to release that anger. You have to let it go because at the end of the day, it's going to destroy you. And at the end of the day, like God said, we have to forgive no matter what. And I'm not gonna lie, that's one of the hardest things. But if He can forgive us, we should be able to forgive. But that's easier said than done because a lot of times I don't be wanting to forgive people, when stuff, happens to me or is done to me. But at the end of the day, you have to forgive. And sometimes, like, when I also mean control your emotions, like try not to not like overthink things, and like think about scenarios that's gonna put you in a bad mood, it's gonna cause you to be angry or be sad or make you question yourself, like am I good enough or am I enough, or or do I want to be here still. That's what I mean when I say control your emotions, because your emotions really it's like an all out war between your mind and your heart. I promise you that it's like an all out war, because like your heart is just as important as your mind. And mentally, you know when you're with your mind all over the place, like you're gonna mentally tire yourself out. And that's why it's important for us, especially us as men, to control our emotions, keep our emotions in check. But sometimes, like, I'm not one of those that's saying like you can't feel anything or you can't have any emotion or you can't feel anger, because at the end of the day, I get irritated when people tell me, try to tell me, how to like to let stuff go, or not to be angry. Like that's a pet peeve of mine. Don't tell me how to, you know, feel. Don't try to tell me how to I should, control my emotions or my anger, because at the end of the day, I don't try to tell nobody how to control their emotions, because at the end of the day, God gave us, we all have different lives. We all have our own way of dealing with things. Everyone has emotion. At the end of the day, you know, everyone has good days and has bad days. I can't stand when people say, this, that, and the third, that, you have to be strong and you have to keep pushing. Like, I really, stuff like that really does irritate me. I don't like when people constantly tell people to stay strong, because that's like a trigger for people. Especially, when a when a woman is, that's, very, very, which are very emotional creatures, when they, especially when they're single parents, and they're crying out for help, and then you tell them to be strong, like that's a trigger. I understand how that feels. Like, it does not feel good when people tell you to stay strong. Like, it's like a slap in the face. Like, we really get triggered off of that. Because I get triggered off of that. Like, don't tell me, especially me, with me being a man, don't tell me, I need to be strong, and for certainly watch your tone when you're telling me, and don't get in my face, or don't scream at me, because that's gonna intensify my anger, and I'm gonna want to do something to you. That's why I made this video, because like a lot of us, sometimes we can't control our emotions, we can't control our anger, and sometimes we don't think about the consequences, but I think about a lot of stuff that, because a lot of things that has, you know, that happens, I try to think about, what can happen if I, completely lose my temper, or if I keep letting my emotions go all over the place. Cause like I do think about my life and my future. Like, for I do think about my life and my future, because at the end of the day, I personally I personally have a lot to, live for. Like, I'm literally about to be 32 tomorrow, you know. Well, when this video comes out, it'll be out after my birthday, but you get what I'm saying. But anyway, I'm turning 32 this month. You know, I deal with a lot of anger, a lot of emotions. I deal with a lot of things that that irritate me on a daily basis. But sometimes I try not to let that get the best of me, because at the end of the day, like, it's going to bother me nonstop, and I try to think about. Sometimes what I do is I put myself in like a dream state reality type of world, and I just kind of like just you know like black out. Well, not really black out, but I kind of daydream away, from the world. So I try to escape the world. I try to put my mind in like my own little matrix, my own little reality world, and try not to think about things that makes me angry, and have my emotions all over the place. I try to put myself into that type of mindset to where I know that I'm gonna be good, and that's gonna like kind of like bring my stress level down, like bring it down. Because at the end of the day, like being mad all day, it does not feel good, and it's been plenty of times I've been mad all day. And it literally gives me a headache, and I just don't like bringing that energy. That's why anytime when I'm mad, I definitely try not to be on my channel, because I don't want to bring no negative energy onto y'all. And by all means, I'm not angry now or anything like that. I'm just, I've had a long week, and and I am a little wore out, but at the end of the day, I want to do these videos because when I do videos like these, I really hope that someone can receive this message, and it can help them in the end. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all go through our little our struggles. I want to try to at least try to save someone's life. Even if it's just one person, I'll be, fine with just, this video reaching out to someone that's going through something to try to try to save their life. Try to help them, get them some pointers and tips, what I do when I'm going through anger. Because, obviously what I like to do when I'm going through anger, besides listening to music, I like to get physical. Like I want to be, doing martial arts training, to release my anger. That's like the best way I've always released my anger. Sometimes when I had a game since when I play video games, and I especially fighting games, I just want to release my anger through that. Listen to music, just sit in silence in the dark or with my LED lights on, just just blasting my music, the chill, my chill vibe, playlist, just kind of relax me, keep my mind off of things. There's a lot of things, everyone has their own thing that they want to do, to keep their mind right, to each his own. But that's what I do, you know. And by all means, like I said, I hope this video reaches out to someone, just control your anger, control your emotions. You'll get so much further in life. And I'm still learning that to this, today. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning things every day as I go along. You're never gonna not know it. I mean, you're never gonna know everything. So it is what it is, Renzo gang. Control your emotions, control your anger, because you will go further in life when you do so. But also release your anger, release your emotions, in a healthy way if you can. Get some help. Listen to music, hit stuff, scream, shout, run, whatever. Do what you got to do. Don't ever hold your emotions in. Don't ever let no one tell you to hold it in, or just deal with it, because that's a trigger as well. You never just want to just keep dealing with stuff and not releasing stuff, because you're gonna go crazy, and you're gonna snap. So yeah, Renzo gang. Hope everyone's had an amazing day today. Post comments down below. Let me know what you thought. If this video reached out to you, and it kind of made a little impact on you, or got you from feeling however you were feeling, give this video a fat thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Turn that post notification bell on. You know what to do, Renzo gang. I love y'all. I will see y'all next time.